Welcome to Ardito Coffee tutorials. In this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to use the 1 litre French press. So what you'll need is about 32 ounces of hot water, about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 grams of freshly ground, coarsely ground coffee. You'll need a spoon for stirring, and I've also got a small set of scales here to measure out the amount of coffee. So we'll take the 1 litre French press, a carafe. We'll remove the plunger mechanism. I'm actually going to preheat the vessel so that when we brew our coffee we don't lose any temperature and we end up with a nice warm cup of coffee. So I'll just take a little bit of boiling water and I'll just fill this up about halfway, and then I'll just sit the plunger mechanism back into the top, close the lid and just let that preheat for a few minutes while we grind our coffee and prepare our 32 ounces of water. Now it does make and does hold 33 to 34 ounces or 1 litre, but you have to allow for the ground coffee that you're going to add into the French press. So you'll need around about 32 ounces of warm water. Right, so I'll turn my scales on here. I've got some pre-weighed coffee, and just as an example, I've got some of the ground coffee that I've got with a couple of coffee beans just there, so you can see how coarse the grind actually is in terms of the in terms of the size of the coffee beans. Now it's quite coarse. It's not an espresso grind. Espresso is nice, fine, powdery looking. This is actually quite a coarse grind, and this is specifically for a French press. If you grind it too fine, you'll end up with more grinds in your cup, and the plunger mechanism will also be a lot harder to press down. So we'll just get our 65 grams of coffee, which I've already got pre-weighed. And now that this has been pre-warming, we'll just remove the plunger mechanism and we'll discard that water as it's now preheated the vessel and the water's chilled out a little bit. Alright, so now we'll take our 65 grams of coffee, add it into the carafe of the French press, and now we'll take our 32 ounces of warm water at about the 200 degrees Fahrenheit and just slowly pour that in. And once we pour the water in nice and slowly, we'll just need to let that sit for about 30 seconds. And this helps the coffee absorb the water and start the brewing process, but also lets the coffee off gas. Because it is such a freshly roasted and freshly ground coffee, it lets the gas escape from the actual vessel before we actually press the coffee down. So as you can see, there's a nice little sort of gas foam sort of being created there. And once it's been sitting for about 30 seconds, we just give it a light stir, not vigorous, just to make sure that there's no clumps of dry coffee in there. So I'll just take a nice long spoon. And also just to make sure that there's no dry coffee on the bottom. That's it. Remove the spoon. And now we can just place the coffee plunger on the top. And now we leave it sit for the brewing process of between 3 and 6 minutes. The brewing time of 3 minutes will give you a weaker, lighter coffee. 6 minutes will give you a nice, strong, rich coffee. So it really depends on how you'd like your coffee. I actually recommend the 6 minute mark. It is a nice, strong, rich, flavoured coffee. All right, I'll let it brew for 6 minutes and we'll come back and we'll pour our coffee. Okay, here we are after a 6 minutes brewing time. So now I've got our coffee cup and we just need to press slowly and gently down on the plunger to push our grinds all the way to the bottom. And extract our coffee oils. Nice and slowly, and that holds our coffee grinds to the bottom of the carafe, and now our coffee's ready to pour. Take our cup and pour in. It's a nice easy pour, spout, doesn't drip. And there we have our nice freshly brewed French press coffee.